Hey, everybody, welcome back to Block Party number 94. I'm going to screen share a little bit as I talk. So just imagine that we are, let's see, getting my pencil connected here. Okay, imagine we are here. We are represented by this oval. And how many folks are in the room here? It looks like 7 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's 7 of us in the room, and it looks like James is asleep, so call it 6 of us. 1, 2, 3. Imagine that each person is one of these little tiny circles, and that the bigger oval represents the conversation. Okay. And then imagine there's another conversation over here that has maybe 3 people. And then there's another conversation over here that's got maybe, 8 people in the main room. And then directly connected to that is a breakout room with another 5 people, right? And on and on and on. So there's all these different conversations that are happening with different numbers of people. Okay. And they're talking about different topics. Now, imagine, and I'm going to talk directly to Bill here, since Bill hasn't heard me talk about this sort of thing. So, although this conversation is for everyone. So imagine, this is the shape of that mountain in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? Where it's like this guy just has this vision, and whether it's with shaving cream or with dirt in the kitchen sink. So I am like that guy. I know you've compared yourself to that guy, but I'm like that guy when it comes to this network of conversations or universe of conversations. I like to go back and forth between screen share and then just looking at each other on the screen. If you imagine that, see, here we are having this Zoom meeting. In parallel, there are tens of thousands of meetings, hundreds of thousands of meetings on Zoom happening right now, all around the world, right? Now, a lot of those are people just having family reunions, chit chats. Others are people talking about a particular business thing, but some percentage, not necessarily a very large percentage, but some percentage are meetings where people are saying, hey, wait a second, we need to talk about this. The planet's overheating, species are going extinct. And so you have, I'm just going to call them benevolent groups with benevolent intent on solving the world's biggest problems. Now, consider Aristotle said that the highest form of friendship is people coming together to work for the common good, right? I believe that, right? I mean, we could have a lot of fun talking about, vintage cars or old movies or music or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. That has its place. But the highest form of friendship that we can aspire to is what we're doing right here, right now. Coming together to work toward the common good. In our case, cooling the planet, saving the biosphere, saving so many species from extinction, right? That are just ripping apart the web of life and setting it on fire, et cetera, et cetera. So we are not alone, right? And see, this really maps to Close Encounters from the Third Kind, because there is this yearning for connection, right, with other life forms on other planets. What I'm talking about is connection with other human beings and groups of human beings on the same planet with whom we can have these kinds of connections in a very systematic way. We don't need high-powered radio telescopes in Mount Pinatubo and Mount Arecibo and Puerto Rico, et cetera, right?
We don't even need to drive into the office. We can just Zoom call meetings. Okay, I'm at home. I'm at the meeting. I'll just Zoom call you. Thank you.
Exactly. You don't need to drive anywhere, fly anywhere. We don't need expensive anything. This is all essentially free, right? We're all paying for our internet service one way or another. And so that's just a fixed cost that, so there's no, but what are we investing then? We're investing our time, and time is a precious commodity at this point. So my thesis goes like this, very simple. What if, here's a big what if there were a map, a database, a universal calendar, right? Where groups like us could post, hey, we're here talking about, in this particular moment, we're talking about collective intelligence, right? Other groups might be talking about ocean acidification. Others might be talking about SRM, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is we're talking about a number of different things. At this particular moment, we're talking about collective intelligence. Now, we have all the technology and all the tools to be transcribing this conversation in real time, right? I have a subscription to Otter AI, and I use it for transcribing, just if I'm taking notes or whatever. But I haven't plugged it into this Zoom meeting. But what I'm saying is that the tools exist for that, right? The technology exists, and it's not expensive. And so just imagine, okay, that our conversation and the, say, thousands of other conversations around the world that are talking about saving life on Earth, saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. Imagine that all of our conversations existed on some big database that we could all tap into, right? And that those that were willing were both broadcasting their conversation on, their YouTube channel or whatever, or Facebook or whatever, and also constantly
repeat that. Broadcasting what again?
Broadcasting their conversation, right? For example, with a couple of clicks of the mouse, I could be broadcasting this on my YouTube channel. Part of me wants to do that, right? But let me talk about the concept first. So imagine that we're simultaneously broadcasting, obviously we're recording and also transcribing. And imagine that we had a way to post the transcript on some, server that was public, that anyone could see. And so anyone who was interested in this conversation, who found it on the database or found it on the map, could be, scanning through the transcript that's constantly being added to with every word we speak, or maybe some people are watching the broadcast, et cetera. And maybe some people have a bot that basically says, hey, listen, scan all these public conversations and let me know anytime any one of them mentions SRM, right? And so imagine each of us on our monitor has something like a dashboard, and I might have SRM, and I might have MCB for marine cloud brightening, and I might have, geoengineering, et cetera, so that anytime any one of my criteria were met, my search criteria, boop, a certain conversation would appear on my dashboard saying, hey, these are all the conversations that are talking about SRM. These are all the ones that are talking about, ocean acidification, et cetera. And then those that are broadcasting live, I could actually peer into, like a, satellite TV where there's just like 500 channels and you can flip. I might be able to flip through and just kind of peer in. My point is that there are groups out there talking about the same things that we're talking about. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be connected? And I might say, hey guys, I'm going to go check out this other meeting, but I'll be back and I'll let you know what I find out, right? Or we might just say, hey, let's just screen share and watch a live stream of one of these meetings and see what we think about it. Now I'm going to go back kind of to the conceptual model that I was starting to talk about. Oh, Moria said hello. Hi, hey folks, I think I'm in the wrong room. Finished making dinner. Oh, looks like she bugged out, so I'm going to leave now. I just saw that. I guess she posted that 10 minutes ago. Anyway, so let me go back to screen sharing. So the basic idea, and there's a few different ways of looking at this, but imagine this was like, this map, and then imagine that because we have visibility into each other's conversation, somebody here might say, hey, I'm going to go check out this meeting. And so they move over there. This meeting of 3 people here might say, hey, let's watch the broadcast of this meeting and see what we find out. And then we could actually send a message to them and say, hey, love what you're doing. We're talking about this over here. So just systematic ways for there to be interactions between these different conversations. Okay. And let me draw another picture of kind of a concept.
What did you say about systematic? Systematic what again? Systematic what?
Systematic interactions between the different conversations. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little bit of feedback, this all sounds really, really great. I mean, it sounds great, and I'll let you continue.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm totally, I'm all in, and I don't think that you have. Yes, please continue.
Thank you. So I'll keep screen sharing. Looks like Marco just tuned in with another computer. So there's different ways to visualize what I'm talking about here. Here's another visualization. So imagine that. Wait, I hear some scratching there. Okay.
Sorry.
That's right.
That's my mic.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
No, my bad.
That's okay. So imagine that this conversation we're having right here on, say, the topic of, I'll put CI for collective intelligence. This conversation right here is represented by this little rectangle down here. And then imagine that a few days later, we have another conversation represented by this rectangle, and then another represented by this rectangle, et cetera. So it forms, think of this as kind of like a skyscraper. And each of these little rectangles represents a floor on this skyscraper. And maybe since you're into construction, I'll just draw like this represents that this was like conversation number 1, right? This thing here represents the ground, right? And this is conversation number 2, number 3, et cetera. And off we go into the future. This could be like a series. So for example, on the block party, we have a number of different conversations, like there's food healers, and then SRM, and then collective intelligence, et cetera. But each of those topics represents a different skyscraper, okay? And so you've got all these different skyscrapers. Just imagine sort of like a Manhattan skyline representing all the different conversations that are within this general realm of saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. And because of the interactions between these skyscrapers, people finding out, oh, there's this skyscraper over here. Oh, there's this other one over there. Think of just like, a map of Manhattan, of all the buildings, of all the skyscrapers that are growing over time. Okay. And then imagine that some people here I represent people as these small little circles, right? Imagine some people here find out about this other conversation that's happening over here, right? And imagine that these are both that both of these skyscrapers are about different facets of collective intelligence. And then imagine that since these two skyscrapers find out about each other and have some interactions, a couple people from this conversation and a couple of people from this conversation might decide to come together and form a new conversation, okay, that then takes off on its own and meets, once a week or something like that, and forms a new skyscraper. the way I like to think of this conceptually, and I'll just draw a different color, I'll just take the color blue, is that these two skyscrapers have now formed a sky bridge between them, right?
Multi-polling. Thank you.
Mhm. And so anyway, so this is sort of like an elevation view of a network of conversations and some of their interactions, where this is like a plan view of conversations and their interactions, right? And in this case, we can kind of have a combined view where we say, you know, this is a skyscraper, right, that has this history of a different series of conversations. And here's where it is right now, right, at this moment in time. Now, in the future, it might continue, etc. But here's
So,
kind of like the
Can I
current-
interject one quick thing?
Of course,
This is a
of course.
floor plan. This is a floor plan,
Yeah,
and the vertical one is an elevation plan.
Ex-
So if you use those terms, people in the building industry will know exactly what you mean.
yeah. I call this that's why I call this elevation view right here, and then this is plan view, right?
Well done.
Yeah. So, but really, we're talking about the same thing. And now back to plan view. So imagine these circles all represent conversations. Okay.
By way of just throwing this out there, I wonder if we could explain to Bill what Trove Catalyst is.
We'll get there. We'll get there, Mike.
Oh, thank you. Okay, it's worth doing.
Definitely. So one step at a time. I'm just starting with kind of like the very conceptual. So if we imagine that you have all these myriad conversations with different kinds of connections between them, right? And we can represent types of connections with different sort of lines or double lines or dashed lines or whatever, okay? And by way of analogy, you could also think of this as, what if each of these little circles represented like a neuron in a neural network or a brain, right? And this neuron fires and it, kind of sends a signal to that other neuron over there. And then this one fires and sends signals to this neuron and then that neuron over there. And then they take that information and they in turn fire and they impact this neuron over there, et cetera. So of course, that's a model for how our brains work, our individual brains. But instead of these being individual neurons, right, a single neuron being basically like, you could think of it as kind of like a bit. It's kind of either it's firing or it's not, 0 or 1. Really, it's shades of gray because it can fire presumably in different levels of intensity or whatever. But if intelligence in our brains is a result of all these different neurons firing and communicating with each other, again, the simplest model is it's like a bit, 0 or 1, either it's firing or it's not, right? Think about now that instead of a simple neuron, right, each of these is actually a
Can you, I'm sorry, I was just sending an email real quick. Can you review the part about the neurons again, please? How that got on screen? Thank you.
Sure. So I'm just saying a neural network like our own brains consist of these different neurons, which I'm representing as these circles. And these neurons can fire, right, or send signals to other neurons that then receive those signals, and then they take those signals and then they either fire or they don't fire or whatever. And you can program a neural network to simulate this kind of action. And I actually did that way back in the 90s, programmed neural networks as part of my work in artificial intelligence. And that's to simulate how a human brain works. And I made a simple comment that, you could think of a neuron in its most simple form as either a neuron is firing or it's not. So either it's in a state of 1, which is firing, or 0, it's dormant, it's quiet, okay? And so the result of a whole network of these neurons, each firing and influencing each other, et cetera, that is intelligence. Presumably everything that's coming out of my mouth is because a bunch of neurons are firing in my brain, and I'm drawing upon memories, and I'm creating new thoughts and this and that, and then they come out of my mouth, and then you guys hear, et cetera. So my point is, instead of a simple neuron with a simple 0 and a 1, these actually represent conversations where there are multiple people. Each of these dots represents a person, right? And the combination of all these people talking generates ideas, which can then be transmitted through the network and received by other conversations that happen to be listening, right, to the transmissions of other conversations. And so I would say if, but instead of saying if, I'm going to say when all these conversations become hyper connected, right? In that each of these conversations is leaving behind, as it moves forward into the future, right, where this is time, right? As each of these conversations moves forward into the future, and I'm just kind of drawing each floor as, I'm kind of chunking it out into different floors of the skyscraper, whereas, each floor could be a distinct meeting, or it could be a distinct hour within a multi-hour meeting or whatever. But then each of these floors is leaving behind a text document, which is the transcript of everything that was said. And of course, that text document is searchable, right? So as a conversation moves forward into the future, like an elevator going up, it leaves behind this growing stream of, I'm just going to call it exhaust, right? Which is all of these pages and pages and pages of text, all of which is searchable. And so, for example, we can imagine doing complex searches. I might say, MCB, wind powered, whatever. And, just like a Google search, it'll draw upon exact matches, but also matches that are close, however, but not necessarily exact. And one thing is, if people do these searches, right? Another thing is, what if bots do these searches? And what if there are bots whose job it is to essentially do matchmaking? So a bot, of course, can listen to millions of conversations at once and assimilate text from millions of conversations, and then basically say, hey, this conversation and this conversation and this conversation, you all should get together, right? Because you're talking about, very similar things. And then if we look at that again,
Eamon,
yes.
Do you think we'll need to wait until there are millions of conversations before we can see anything being done about marine cloud lightning, or do you think that's something that needs to be done before we build millions of conversations?
Yeah, well, let me give you two responses to that question, Alan. Number one, the millions of conversations already exist, so we don't need to wait for them to come into existence. They already exist. What's missing is the systematic hyperconnectivity, right? And I mean, basically,
how long do you think it'll take to connect them all?
Well, that's up to us. That's up to us.
The future.
That is up to us, Alan. It's up to all of us to find the ways in which to connect these. And that's where Michael's comment about Trove, which we'll share more about as we go, Trove basically has a vision similar to this, and its main developer is a friend of ours named Vincent Arena. He's in Long Island, New York, and he collaborates with
My
a number
question
of
was
folks.
more, I mean, I know there are these millions of conversations, but my question is, you're drawing a picture of them being linked and united, and the question's more focused on, do we need to wait until they're linked? And how long is it going to take till they're linked? Because this is kind of urgency stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah.
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So Marcus and Jimin, how long have you guys been, how many months have you guys been conversing for without me in the room?
Yeah, I mean Marco, me and Marco, for example.
Pardon me, yes, Marco.
Yeah, Marco and I, we've been conversing for about a year and a half. I think it was July of 2020 that Marco first discovered us.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted
July 5th, 2020.
I just hope that Marco isn't nervous that I don't know if his comment is because I'm new in the room and you might be overwhelming me, or because that was if I was not in the room. But I just want to relate to Marco that I cannot be intimidated. So we're just filling we're filling air right here. We're just I'm getting some background. There's not too many people here, right? So if I'm just getting some background of some more in-depth things, and I don't want you to get nervous. If you are getting nervous, that I'm
not
new.
nervous.
I know you're not nervous, but I just don't want you to be nervous that I'm nervous. Just the whole just the presentation of this incredibly vast content that Jamin is explaining. And I agree with you that we need to focus on the here and now, but we're just filling, not to say anything against Jamin about your content. I think that this is high level stuff. I'm happy to be sitting in on it, and this is a 24-hour broadcast, right? So we've got time.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. No worries. I didn't think you were intimidated at all.
Well, I was
reason to be.
Just confirming that, and I agree with you. I'm all about mirrors and SRM, but I'm intrigued, Jamin. So please continue.
Thank you.
If that's okay.
Oh no, I'm very happy to continue.
I'm usually a little more vocal than tonight. I've only had an hour and 15 minutes sleep since yesterday.
I get it.
And I'm doing two things at once, and a big thing over in Climate Healers tomorrow and Sunday.
Well, we all applaud you for that. Thank you very much. It's not easy keeping up. I get it.
Yeah, so I'm just a little tired today. All right, carry on.
All right, happy to carry on. I'll go ahead and mute you, Marco.
Thank you.
Unless you want to manage that yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marco. So Alan had asked a couple of questions. I mean, look, if for example, a multi-billionaire popped into the Zoom room right now and said, hey, listen, I'm happy to fund Marine Cloud Brightening, we could get Marine Cloud Brightening going with literally a few dozen people working on it. I am not in favor of delaying Marine Cloud Brightening at all. It needed to happen yesterday, last year, 10 years ago, but better late than
20
never.
years ago.
Yeah, 20 years. But anyway, better late than never. And what I'm talking about in terms of collective intelligence and this network of hyper-connected conversations is precisely with a view to manifesting a higher form of intelligence than that with which humanity has been operating up until now, right? And there's certainly a lot of disadvantages to the massive population of humans on the planet right now. But there are also some advantages. So one of the advantages is if, say, the 1% of humanity that was most engaged in these kinds of conversations to save and heal and transform life on Earth, the 1% of humanity equates to 80 million people, right? And let's say on average, there were 10 people per conversation on average, right? That would equate to 8 million conversations. If, say, 1% of humanity decided to all get together for, say, I don't know, an 8-hour period once a week and get together and just jam like crazy. 80 million people, 10 people per room, that's 8 million conversations. So can you imagine a map of 8 million conversations all happening simultaneously, all being transcribed, their transcripts all populating a database that's just growing and growing and growing by, like, I don't know, a page per minute or half a page per minute, depending on how fast people are talking, right? And so you just have this massive explosion of hyper-connected content. And imagine that there was a, you know, for lack of a better word, a culture that these 80 million people agreed to, some sort of a basic, you know, culture and etiquette, where, for example, if a given conversation like this one, anyone can join this meeting, right? I send this email out to, you know, a few hundred people every Thursday. Bill, I'm
Can I
happy.
stop?
Please.
Can I
please,
stop
please.
you there?
Please, please, please.
So I've got a contractors forum. Can you send me an invite that I can forward to that? Because that consists of a good group of some of the smartest people I know in the mechanical, meaning what my dad used to say, mechanical. If you're mechanical, that means you do this. You know how to turn a wrench. So he slowed me down one day, and my dad was a great guy. He died way early, but anyways, if that's true, please send me an invite that I can copy, share, and put to my contractor forum, because again, it's going to take blue to get this done. And I'm so thankful that the smartest people on the planet, like yourself and academia, has come up with this plan. I couldn't come up with it, but I can implement it. And I'm the backbone and the influence that can talk to my brothers who are.
This is what I see. Yeah, this is what I see, Bill. I see you as like the foreman, the plant foreman. I mean, the highest level running a major operation. I mean, that's
it's not
power.
operation.
Well, you're a collaborator too, which is a great gift too.
Thank you, Michael. The collaboration is just my influence on smart contractors who know how to get stuff done. The best of the best. I know how to connect with the best of the best. And it's going to take the blues to get it done. And all we need to do is have a plan and implement it. And we can do it simultaneously as we're rolling out all of the testing for whether it's MIR, sea cloud brightening. I don't care what. I'll talk to politicians. I am not in. Yeah, you guys know
regarding MIR, may I put in a word about Guardian Glass, a great Detroit born. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll use any glass company you guys want. It doesn't matter as long as it's silica based, you know, melted sand, glass, mirrors. It's all gonna happen. So I mean, if I was an entrepreneur, I'd say it'd probably be a good time to invest in glass companies or mirror companies. But I'm not, and I don't plan to do that. Even though, yeah, regardless, all I care about is my kids, and I don't care about money at all. It's just a tool for me. I need it to get shit done. And here I am. I do need money, but I don't get excited about money. It's just a tool. It's like if I pulled up a hammer right now, it's just a tool. I need it, especially as a small business owner. I needed to get stuff done.
All right. So I propose that we keep this conversation focused because I feel like we're on a really good track.
Sorry.
Right now. No, that's okay. That's okay. And so I just want to request if you have an outside comment, just raise your hand and so we don't break the flow because we're on to something really important right now. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I'm all ears.
Okay. We're on to something really, really important here. Because you're opening my eyes to something that I hadn't even really thought about too deeply, which is the world of contractors. Because you've made some important comments here, like you know how to connect with the best of the best. I believe you, right? My dad was a mechanical engineer. He passed away in 2016 after a long life, and he was the most brilliant mechanical engineer I'd ever known. I studied civil and environmental engineering. I'm very much my father's son. I mean, we were super close. And he knew how to identify good people as well. And the cool thing about independent contractors is you're your own bosses, right? You're not controlled by anyone else. You're independent and proud of it, and you form a network. That's how you get stuff done. The reason you can bid on a complex job is because you've got a network. If you need to bring in some crack HVAC expert who can solve some really tough problem, boom. My dad, a friend of the family, was just this crack electrical engineer. And he said, Jamin, anything that needs to be solved in terms of any electrical problem, no matter how hard, Bob can solve it, right? I never forgot. I was like, wow. So you know the go-to people to get certain things done. So you live in a world that's all about getting stuff done, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously you have integrity, you've got a great reputation, you're honest, you don't overcharge, you know, you stand by your work and everything. That's why you're trusted, and that's why you're part of this network. It's sort of like this invisible network. And so what we're going to do, what I'm really inspired by, is we can pull together this contractor network of people who get stuff done, who know each other. Right. And so, for example, on this network that I'm drawing here, let me just do another sketch. My dad and I.
It's not going to be as pretty as that.
I'm not. There's
going to be a bunch of shenanigans.
I'm not.
I mean, there's. Sorry.
I'm not suggesting it's going to be pretty, but I'm just. I'm kind of, you know. I tend more towards the theoretical. And what we really need is this combination of the theoretical and the practical, and everything in between. But so imagine these are all these little conversations, right? So let's say your sphere within which you work the most is represented by
the smallest one.
Well, here you are. Right. But your network is, you know, is this whole bigger blue oval that I just drew. So you're connected with all these, let's just call them firms, right?
No, about 14, about let's just say about 13. That's a little too populated, but that's okay. We're just doing experiments.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's all these other contractors over here. So you're the blue. Your team blue, and there's another contractor who, let's say they're connected with all these folks, right? The green.
Yep, right? Exactly. And those are the best of the best.
Exactly. And so if you look at a map of the world, you know, there are tens of millions. I don't know about tens of millions, but maybe millions. Probably closer to tens of millions of independent contractors, independent firms. Some are one-man operations, others are, three brothers that got together back in, 1992 to start a business, and they've been going strong ever since. And so there's already a hyper-connected network out there that's focused on getting stuff done, right?
Yep.
And so what we're talking about, see, people like you, Bill, and again, I never mean to, commodify you or anyone when I say that, but you're a special breed of contractor who cares about the planet, who cares about life on Earth, right? We all know some contractors who just like all they want to do is work their butts off, and then on Friday nights drink beer and play darts, and then on Saturday watch NFL and maybe go for
Yeah, they're not preserving trees in the yard and such to plow over the trees.
Yeah. So, but the reality is every contractor has their hobbies, and one of your hobbies, your major hobby, is saving life on Earth, cooling the planet and saving life on Earth. So basically, we want to kind of formalize what has been up until now. I'm just going to call it an invisible network, because there is no map of it, right? There have been efforts made to create far less rich maps than the one we're envisioning, right?
I would like to interject right now,
Please,
and that is
please,
to
please,
say
please.
the reason why I reached out to Roger Hallam and just said, hey, listen, man, the academics figured it out. It's up to you, me, who got blue, to get this done. And don't forget to send a hopeful message to XR, because I've watched women just bawling their eyes out saying, well, we know what's going on and we're doing everything you're telling us to do, Roger, but what we're just all going to die. I mean, and this is something more than that. I mean, I don't like to use the word hope. HOPE is a 4-letter word. And I didn't have any hope for the first two and a half years of my discovery of this 3.5 years ago. But that being said, I've got a sliver of it. It's kind of like the dog reaching halfway to the bone. Now I just need to get it a jumping board so I can get up and get to the bone. So regardless, I think it's doable, but it's going to take. I think I sent this Zoom meeting excuse me. I think I sent the Zoom meeting a podcast, or pardon me. I think I sent it a message saying that, so where was I going with this? I touched on hope. I touched on this. I touched on that. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with this, except for to say that it's hope to me is a dangerous word, because I had no hope, and I went through depression. So I'm like a happy guy. I'm like the happy guy in the crowd. I'm happy because I got a great family. I wasn't abused as a kid. I just grew up happy. And then all of a sudden, depression touched right here on the outside of my shoulder. And it started with my divorce. And it was not a great marriage, even though I married a really great gal. We couldn't figure it out. What else is new? And then I discovered some other things about trust within the government or whatever. And that was in a happy place for me. And then I discovered the climate. It's just like, it's like this hammer that just keeps on coming down. And it cracks me up because, what are you going to do? You got to just survive. You got to got to keep on going. You got to be, but it's been challenging, and we're all going through challenges. What's important to remember is this. What's important to remember is the people that can, and it's not necessarily me, but it's all of us that can get punched down but keep going. That's an important quality, and not everybody has it. They might not have it for various reasons, and they might be, organic. They might not be born with that intelligence. It might be because they've been persuaded to believe a certain way, in a religious way. They might be biased by, having just, bad parents. That it doesn't matter. Regardless, we were all born into this. We can all agree to that, right? We were all born into this. Here we are. It's our duty to do what we can do as adults, not stress out the youth, not freak out the people that don't want to know about it because they only. How about this? One of my very best friends, 3 of my very, very best friends, 3 will not watch a movie, a great movie. I'm talking about a really good movie. It's a great movie, but if it has a sad ending, they won't go watch it. And I'm like, you know what? And they tell me this. No, I can't pick a color to save my life. I can tell you if a color is beautiful, if it works into a situation, especially if when I'm working with all these designers, I can see colors like I can see other things, mechanical things. But, the fact that I'm just like, you should not have told me that. It's hard to have respect for somebody. I don't know what to say. I'm just a loss for words with certain people's, I don't know. But I know I really love this life, and I've been blessed with a beautiful family, and I was treated well as a youth. And my daughter saw some things she probably shouldn't have, but my son lived a pretty nice life. And my daughter is so friggin' smart. It's incredible. What's really fun about having kids is that you see what manifests within yourself through your kids, and you see the likenesses and things like that. But I mean, regarding intelligence, it's so fun to see youth just overcome, well, in my daughter's case, overcome some adversity, and then just, I'm hoping, flourishing. But, time will tell.
If I may, Jamin.
Oh, yeah, of course. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, I'll take my hand, put my.
I got it. I got you.
Lower hand. Oh, you got that? Okay, thank you. Let me, lower hand. What I see probably, Bill, is like Sarah, we'll leave it to our female sisters earlier today to have the wisest words. Sarah said, well, is there a pack that people can go to Lowe's, pick up a pack like a mirror pack and install it themselves, That is what screams out to me, Bill, you designing something useful like that, that's important for mirroring, that can get out to the masses via like Lowe's. I favor Lowe's over Home Depot because of the ownership. I'm just putting that out there. Maybe not this second, but sometime if it works. Thank you.
Yeah. Look,
Thanks, Michael.
I propose again that we'll get back to those kind of specific details, because we're in a focused conversation right now, which is actually very profound. Bill, you're kind of teasing out and distinguishing certain sort of characteristics of the kinds of people who are ready and willing to jump in to this network of conversations that we are hypothesizing can and urgently needs to come into existence, right? And the people in this room are people who are playing key roles in making this happen, right? And what's really exciting is, here we are, chipping away, trying to tunnel through some mountain or something. What's really exciting is we're about to connect with another team that's chipping through, on a different path, and we connect. And now we're just like a much bigger crew that can make a lot more progress a lot faster. And the next thing you know, we meet up with some other group that's tunneling through at some different angle, right? And this group right here, we don't give up, and we will never give up, right? They'll have to kill us to stop us. And even then we'll probably be transmitting from heaven or wherever the afterlife is. I mean, we just don't give up.
I'm just saying, from what I know, this is easy stuff. This is nothing difficult. For blues, this is easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Right.
This is stupid simple.
That's right. See, because to be a real blue, as you're saying, right? You've survived, not just survived, you've thrived as a blue, right? And that takes intelligence, it takes work ethic, it takes organization, it takes a whole bunch of qualities, right?
It doesn't take anything. You're just being a blue. You're just being mechanical as a person, whether it's male or female. This is easy. This is stupid simple. Everything that you guys have come up with is stupid simple. Everything that all of the people at MIR, it's just all it needs to do is get implemented. It's so simple. It's like, as Peter Wadham said, this is so beautifully simple. I can't even believe we haven't thought about it in the past. Now I've come up with a couple prototypes, and I'm working on a few other ones, and it just needs to get done.
Exactly.
This conversation is incredibly not what you're saying, but what I keep on trying to tell everybody is this is boring me. I want to get this done, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to be much more driven than I am every single day I wake up, and I'm just driven. Sorry, I interrupted.
No problem. As you're sharing some really cool stuff from your world, I want to share some stuff from my world. Let me go ahead and pull up a YouTube video. This will just take me a second. Okay.
Well, Jamin's doing that, Bill. The reason I mentioned Mr. Beast is like that's one of the big focuses, is reaching either millionaires to get things done, or millions of people and millions of conversations coming together all on the subject of doing something about marine cloud brightening. The reason I mentioned Mr. Beast is because simple example of he accomplished his entire mission of getting that 50 million in 12 hours, one video that lasted 12 hours, completely focused, which means if we find something like that, we could have it done by tomorrow, and we could have everything we need if we could find something like that. Have you any ideas of any approaches yourself, Bill, that the things that we could do that will, who should we reach out to? Who should we, how would we do something like that? Any ideas on that?
So I already recommended that, not myself so much, but my brother's got connections with Cenk Yeaker, with the Young Turks, and what's the guy's name? Roger Grogan, or someone's got to jump in on that one.
Joe Rogan?
Joe Rogan could definitely do Dr. Yee, Professor Salter could definitely do. I could find inroads to those two major podcasts.
Oh,
Do you have
Jamin,
any?
may I mention, Jamin would be a wonderful guest for Joe Rogan. He could really boil it better than the scientists, I think. Jamin.
Anybody,
Yeah,
anybody can boil it. Anybody,
podcast things like Joe Rogan, they've got a lot of
anybody
reach.
can boil it
and it's
better
probably
than the
easier to
scientists.
contact them than to contact like mainstream media or millionaires. It's probably easier to get through to someone like that.
So, I mean, I did a presentation in front of a multimillionaire, and but he's like 89 years old, and I'm not sure how much fight he's got left in him. But he listened to me, and he looked at me, and he goes like this. He goes, "Can you guys see me?"
Yeah, we can see you perfectly. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Because I'm bouncing around, I'm trying to see who's talking to me. And he goes, "So let me get this straight, Bill." He said, "You're doing this strictly for humanitarian aid?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've got kids, Gordon." And he's like, "That's really cool, Bill." Basically, he couldn't understand he was trying to figure out how I was going to make money on this. I said, "I don't care about money. I'm just trying to get this done. I'm trying to save people in India, because we're going to see some shit over this next year, and it's not going to be pretty. And it sucks. It sucks." And trust me, I was, when I was going through, so I mean, I'm a hunter, fisherman, capable contractor. When I found out about this, going through all of this newfound awareness of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, I was struggling. We're prepping it. We've already got a not completely, but we already tried to prep a property, and then I started reeling back, and then I started listening to some people, and which was basically Jem Bendell and what's the organization I'm trying to think about right now? But regardless, I started listening to some people that were basically saying, "It's kind of over, guys," and deep adaptation. And they basically said, "It's kind of over, guys, and we need to accept what's coming." And now all of a sudden, some people from Ireland basically said that that's not the best. Well, as long as I've got some sort of hope, I'm not going to give up. Period. I've got kids, and I could give a rip. So, but they basically said that they questioned whether or not that was genuine, even though I really believed in Jem. I thought his message was fairly pure. All I'm trying to do is find the truth. I could care less. I just want to find people who are going to tell me the truth.
Yeah, I was wondering who Jem is. Jem, you mentioned. Jem?
Jem Bendell, deep adaptation.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, my world revolves around the fact that multimillionaires hire me, and I walk into their house and they've got keys to their properties. It's all about trust. When you get to the rich of the rich, it's all about trust. So they trust that I know what I know. I'm going to do what I say. I'm not going to overcharge them. And it's a very simple world when you get to the rich. I don't know what's going on with everybody else. I just don't know. I don't know, and I don't really want to know. It's confusing to me. I mean, again, my clients have got private jets, and they try to offset their carbon footprint by putting crazy solar panels on their houses that I contract with Solar City, which was the company that was prior to Tesla. but a bunch of smart, really nice people. They are just, I just don't understand how all of these smart people just focus on things that aren't the most important safety items on their list and on their grandkids' lists. I don't get it. That's okay. I mean, you know what's going to probably happen, everybody, is that this is probably not going to work out as much as we try.
You're thinking for them, so they can't do that. That's your gift. Everybody in this room, that's our gift. We are doing it.
I'm their safety guy. I'm everybody's safety guy, whether it's my kids or whoever. You just,
you know, Bill, when I hear you say that this is probably not going to work out, I think I know where
listen,
you're.
don't quote me on that.
I'm
Don't
not.
quote me on that.
Well, we are recording, but anyway. And by the way, we can always pause recording. Just do this or say, "Hey, Damon, please pause recording." Right. I'm okay just letting the conversation roll. So if anyone wants to pause, it's
No,
okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to say I hear you, and I think I know where you're coming from. You're not saying, "Hey, I'm giving up." You're saying the opposite of that, but you're just kind of giving what seems to you like a realistic perspective, because that's your job, you know. So if you've got some client with a big house on an eroding cliff, you know, you're going to tell them the truth. Hey, man, this is not looking good. So what do we do? Right? You're just giving a realistic assessment. I just want to very gently challenge you on that, Bill, because we do not know, we, humanity, do not know what we're capable of. Right? We don't know what we can do.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And-
know what I can do as a person, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you talk about this network of a dozen or so of your most trusted go-to contractors. And then we've talked about, you know, these overlapping networks. We don't know what will happen when all these networks get connected in a whole new way. Right? We don't know. Okay. And we're about to give it we're about to give humanity one hell of a run for her money.
I think we're worth it, and I think that nature's worth it, and I think again, I'm all in.
Yeah, exactly.
Jem, just, you know, I don't want to deal with percentages here. I'm just going to keep on climbing the cliff, and here I am.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, put away that convertible just when you're with us. Thank you.
I've got a contractor friend of mine who's wicked smart, man, and he won't leave the conversation unless he gets a laugh out of me. But he normally gets it pretty easy because he's so friggin' funny. He's just like, you know, I'm not going to leave this conversation until I got to laugh at him. He just says something stupid, and I just start laughing. I now I actually know what he's up to. So, but he's a good guy, and he's expecting, and I just, you know, what are you gonna do?
He's expecting?
Whole mess.
You expecting a child, you mean?
Well, his wife's expecting. So
Yeah, well, I've never been married and I don't have any children, and I do have nieces and nephews, and you know, I'm from a big family, but I never had a family of my own. But I feel like everybody in this room is fam. You know, I'm so thankful to that Marco posted a small blurb on Saturday Night Alive, a California-based Saturday night show. And I'm going through my notes of the conversation. I see Marco's post. I was able to find the conversation.cc, and thank goodness. I appreciate that.
So can I ask a question here? Can I get some background from Marcos? Is Marcos around?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, where are you from originally? You sound
I'm from Michigan. I spent most of my life in Michigan, a couple stints in Ontario, you know. I grew I moved to a 122 acre farm when I was 2 and grew up there. We went through every kind of farming, corn, wheat, potatoes, all the field crops. Didn't really make any money. We went through every kind of livestock, poultry, pigs, goats, sheep, everything. Never really made any money. When we went to organic gardening just for our own food, and then people like that, and then it kind of grew into truck gardening for the farmers markets. Then we did that, and then I started to learn different crafts. I can do pottery, I can do woodworking. I did a couple years as a rough carpenter. That was I got stories there. I can go out and in the summer I can find all the different things you can eat grow in the wild. Things that you can eat, some that are medicinal. I can shear a sheep, clean the wool, card the wool, spin the wool, weave it into, or knit it, or crochet it into something. I did both hand pottery on the potter's wheel, hand building, and the commercial slip cast ceramics.
Did you ever work with buckskins, like deer buckskins, deer skin?
No, I was never into that type of thing.
Oh, okay, thanks.
I did do some leather work, but it didn't not very much. I read cards for a few years.
How old are you?
Right now?
Yes.
61. It's in January 7th. When I was 13, my mom and dad were, I was the youngest kid then, and my mom and dad wanted to do, spice up their relationship a little bit or bring it closer together. And they signed up for classes, 45 miles away at the junior college. And my dad's classes got dropped. So my mom said, well, I'm just going to go cancel my classes. I'll go. And I'm like, no, why would you want to do that? She said, well, I don't want to do it alone. It was to do with your dad, and I'm like, we'd have the time driving back and forth to talk and, and I said, no, don't do that. It's like, I'll go with you. I'll take classes. And she's like, no, you got to be in school. And I said, why? And she said, well, you have to. I said, well, can I go with you when you go to cancel the classes? Well, you're supposed to be in school that day. I said, well, let me go. We went. And when we got there, I said, before you cancel the classes, look, they're still signing people up. They're still signing up for classes. I said, let me sign up for the same classes you're taking. And she's like, well, fine, do what you want to do. And I took it up there and they looked at me and they said, how old are you? And I said, well, my birthday's right on there. They said, well, it's like, I don't think you can sign up. I said, why not? She said, well, I don't know. She said, let me talk to the registrar. And the registrar said, well, he doesn't know of a rule or a good reason. He said, well, I'll tell you what, you get the instructor's permission and I'll go along with it. I'll sign off. So I'm like, well, where's the classroom? Is he on campus? Yep. Found him. He said, it's okay with me, but I don't think the registrar, I said, that's already done. He said, well, he says, okay with me. He said, but you'll have to get the dean's approval. And I'm like, oh, okay, running all over campus, found the dean's office. And I asked, run it by him. And he said, you'd have to get the instructor's permission. I can't see a reason why not. Really? And I said, okay, already done. He said, well, you're supposed to be in school. I said, well, I will be in school. I'll be in classes right here. And he said, well, you'll have to get your local school board's permission. So I was, so I went and talked to those people and they said, well, let's see. By law, you have to be in class so many hours, throughout, in so many days. and you will actually be in class as long as your grades don't drop here and you make up the work you miss on the 2 days a week you're not here. Okay. So that's what I did. So I'm in. I need to get back, later on, life started beating me down. I'm divorced. I've gone through the depression. I've been in 2 pretty bad car accidents that have, gotten me down. I'm falling apart. I worked in what I wanted since I was a kid was to be a chef, work in restaurants. Well, I did that too. At 26, I went back to college and started taking food service management classes. And the instructor was the head of the program. She thought she knew everything. And she kept telling everybody, oh, now here's all these jobs. I want you all to go out on job interviews. We know you can't get the jobs, but some of you would qualify, like for these Burger King and whatever jobs. One day she said, well, there's this private club out in Oxford. It's looking for a chef. And she said, I like to see, one of you, any of you try and apply for that job. And then she said, particularly you, Marco, you need this job experience, this interview experience more than anybody. Because I had always worked in family business up until I was 26. And I'm like, she just pissed me off. So, I called him up, got an appointment for the interview, went to the interview. The chairman of their board interviewed me, and she refused to let me leave without agreeing to take the job. Well, prior to that, I'd spent several months training to work in a large hotel that kept having delays in building, and I had already been accepted there. So I'm like, well, in the meantime, I'll work there. And I'm like, got it. First interview, first job, chef at a private country club. So I don't have, formal education, but I read a lot. I know enough to seek out people like Jamin.
You can explain that Oxford, Michigan is about 35 miles north of Detroit. It's a country area, kind of countrified area, but that's an interesting sub category of people out there that are on like the country club scene, or what is that about, Marco, if I may?
All the auto executives and the doctors from, Birmingham and Bloomfield Hills, they all had their summer houses out there were like 100, 300 acre farms. And the wives all for their hobby had dressage horses. So that's that set out there. But anyhow, so I know enough. I did the restaurant thing, burned out on that. Did rough carpentry, burned out on that. By that time, I had pretty much just between the car accident and working, 18-hour days, very physically, I wore my body out. And now I'm working on getting healthy again and saving the world. It's all I've done, since July 5th of 2020.
And doing a darn good job of it, I'll add. Christopher, who's also on here, between Christopher and Marco, they kept this Zoom room open, I kid you not, 24/7 for months in late 2020, the fall of 2020 into the winter. And we did a very significant press conference. It's on thepressconference.org. You can watch the recordings. And they were instrumental in building up to that. And so we have a fairly interesting history here of pioneering collective intelligence in kind of a similar way to how Edison pioneered light bulbs, right? A lot of trial and error and a lot of theory, and then a lot of practical application. I mean, this right now, what we're doing right now, this minute, and for the last 14 hours is experimentation and development with collective intelligence focused on food, focused on cooling the planet, focused on building community in Los Angeles, on Zoom, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're kind of like a bunch of determined mad scientists and mad engineers, and who are just absolutely determined that we save life on Earth.
You know, between my top three, four choices, whatever, you know, Jamin, Dr. Silas Rao, Professor Stephen Salter, you know, if you've seen the design, all the schematics for those marine cloud brightening ships, it's like art and beautiful music all wrapped up in one. They're insanely detailed. I mean, literally brings tears to my eyes how well those are designed. And you know, by hanging around with, you know, all these different climate scientists we've met with and engineers like Dr. Rao. Dr. Rao, you know, he's responsible for the chip technology that let the internet go digital. Intel will say that's their technology, but that's because he sold his company with his design to them. So he's the brainchild there. So being able to meet with these people, talk with them on a regular basis, you know, I'm able to stand on the shoulders of giants, and I get their decades of learning the hard way, you know, delivered on silver plate, practically. And I don't take it for granted. And I'm complete for right now.
Well, again, I'm with the group thinking, especially James, thinking that we all need to work together on all fronts. And Jamin, I'm not sure you finished your point. I think you were starting to get into something really deep. But that being said, I really feel that we should do whatever it takes to initiate it's a bad analogy, but the starting of the plow, but for a different reason, and that is SRM, and which was designed by academia or figured out by academia to save basically our predicament, which was produced by capitalism and the oil industries and all the things that you saw me driving around all day long today. I mean, I'm going to drive across the hill tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to go crabbing. What time is this podcast? This is a 24-hour podcast. So is it end at 7 a.m. tomorrow?
The reality is, I'll let you in on a little secret. Sometimes we adjourn early.
It happens.
It happens.
Well, that being said, I'll take some pictures of some good Dungeness crab. I'm not sure how Dungeness, I'm not sure how fishing fits into being vegan, because I'm not, scraping the bottom of the planet. And but regardless, I'm a fisherman, and we go out and we get some fish, and we enjoy some crab and some nice fresh coho salmon. And I'm not going to probably change that, but until they're gone. And I'll tell you a story. So, by the way, normally,
Salmon have a limited lifetime, unfortunately. Thank you.
what does crab?
No, salmon do their spawning and then unfortunately they pass on. So
Well,
after
It's
they
unfortunate.
spawn,
It's unfortunate for them, but it's fortunate for the rest of the environment, because they all get to, whether it's the trees or from the scat from the animals that eat the animals, and deposit those nutrients on the forest. I mean, it's just a continuation of life. I mean, salmon are just, so you got pelagic fish, and then you've got non-pelagic fish, and pelagic fish basically are continuously circling around the ocean, have no affiliation with the earth. And then there are non-pelagic fish that, like salmon, that have a direct link to the earth. And we target both species and we promote both species, but regardless, we're doing it on a very small scale, and that's not supposed to be an
Yeah,
excuse.
that sounds very sustainable. Thank you, man. That's very concerning. You have much concern for the environment, I can tell, man. So I appreciate that.
But that being said, thank you, Michael. That being said, the crab cycle is kind of weird, and things are getting really weird. So imagine this: bluefin tuna did not used to visit the San Diego harbor, San Diego region within reach of their harbor. And now San Diego, which started only like 6 years ago, is the bluefin capital of the world. So I do some long range trips out of there, and but recently we got visited by bluefin tuna, and we went out 40 miles looking for them, and we reached a temp break that got all the way up to meaning heating up to 59 degrees. And the next thing we know, we're looking off about an 1/8 mile away, and we saw 100-pound jumpers, whole school of them, just boiling over at the top. And our goal is to catch one. Now, when I catch that one, at that point, I'm going to probably have a Geiger counter on me, and I'm going to run it over the fish and figure out if it's hot or not from Fukushima or whatever. But we still want to catch one.
Offer some tobacco to the four winds.
You know what I really love? I love tough people. And I'm not saying I'm tough. I'm just saying I love tough people that can get stuff done. That's what we need right now.
My family are a lot of blue collar folks. My dad's an electrician, was an electrician. My family was in the motor companies for 80 plus years. Chevrolet Motor Company, helped to build the company, skilled trades, tool and die setters, talking blue. So my grandpa helped to invent a lot of the practices Chevrolet makes many hundreds of millions of dollars off.
Nice. Don't mean to be eating in front of everybody, but here I am.
Oh, we all eat here all the time.
I was gonna say, I just finished eating in front of everybody.
All right.
I'm eating as we speak.
spend too much time here not to eat in front of the camera.
By the way, the only reason I brought up blue collar people is not to dismiss anybody else. It was just to inspire blue. That's it. All I want to do is get this done.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
All you can do. You just,
Oh.
I mean, once you figure out the odds, you're just like, all we can do is try.
Well, the way I see it, Bill, there's really no other game in town at this point but saving life on Earth. Because if we fail at this game, all other games are done. And there will never be another game, ever. And that is a huge responsibility for us to, it'd be like a firehouse, a firefighting company going up to an orphanage that's in flames with a bunch of kids stranded in the attic and saying, I don't really feel like it today. Right? What?
Yeah.
No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And so now that we're assembled, we're going to get this done. It's as simple as that.
Well, I concur. But
Pardon?
that being said, do you remember my example earlier about a bunch of domino effects, about dominoes hitting, whether it was Yi finding out about Guy, me finding out about Yi, and all these other things happening? Me finding out about Mir, getting involved with Mir, and all this stuff. And here I am talking to you guys basically all day long. So, so these are all happenstances, right? They're the chance meetings.
We like to think of it as synchronicities.
Okay.
I'm on to something. The blue is such a powerful concept that you mentioned that, Bill, because the blue they build what that needs to be built. In World War II, did the blue say we're not going to build these tanks in Detroit? We're not going to build Willow Run. We're not going to build airplanes. No, they got to work. And that's what the blue can do now. We can tell the automakers we're not building a thing until we start building some marine cloud brightening apparatus, and our company funds such. Thank you. We walk.
Yeah, I like it. I'm not going to rebuild your kitchen. I'm going to put mirrors on your house and give me 10 grand, and I'll do it at cost, or basically enough money to pay my bills. And you're going to get a nice discount, or you're going to get a nice rebate from the government on your taxes to get this done. And I don't.
And there's a story in the newspaper about your house. Oh, what's this mirrored house doing? What is this? It's amazing. All the publicity some kind person could get.
I don't want any publicity. I just want to get this done. I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying. I just want to get it done.
Everybody here knows I'm always looking for publicity, like gimmicks to get marketing out there and ideas. Tomorrow is our photo shoot, if I may, about Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid, we're gonna photo. I got 6 different flavors of Kool-Aid. We're gonna photograph cold Kool-Aid in my picture, and I'll be forwarding those photos along. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. So playing off of the name Extinction Rebellion, we came up with the name Kool-Aid Rebellion because we're aiding Mother Earth in cooling.
I like it.
She's not going to do it she can't do it by herself. She needs some aid. She needs cool aid. And it's really cool what we're doing. And also Kool-Aid Rebellion, it's got some other undertones from the San Francisco Bay Area, like Jim Jones and drinking the Kool-Aid down in Guyana or Suriname or wherever the hell they were. And so anyway, Kool-Aid Rebellion. Thanks, Michael. And it plays off of Extinction Rebellion because they got a lot of things right, except the one thing that they screwed up was the mission. What's their mission? You know, shut down London. Great. A lot of good that's done now, but they have gotten a lot of attention and they've gotten people together with passion. Kool-Aid Rebellion is not about shutting anything down. It's about cooling something down. What? Mother Earth. Why? So that we can live. Right? 90+% of our problems are solved with cooling the planet and making the transition to plant-based foods for everyone. Right? Because plant-based foods for everyone has really two parts. Plant-based food, shutting down animal agriculture, and food for everyone, ending hunger, ending malnutrition, right?
Yes.
And both those are two gigantic objectives that get both, we solve both of those objectives with one single program, Love All, Feed All. Combine that with cooling the planet, and we've solved 90% of our problems. And the reason I say that is because once we get Love All, Feed All fully implemented around the world, humanity's not going to stop there and say, okay, we're feeding everyone, let's stop there. No, now let's provide shelter for people. Not necessarily, you know, a McMansion for every man, woman, and child. Some of it'll be more like dormitory style, you know, shelter with shared.
Yeah, like tiny homes, like tiny homes are wonderful.
Either tiny homes or apartment buildings, but something, right?
It all gets back down to plumbing, shared bathrooms.
What about plumbing?
Yeah, multiple dwellings.
So it's shared bathrooms.
Yeah, shared bathrooms, exactly. So it can be done very economically.
Community, like co-housing. I love co-housing. I'm really sold on co-housing. I share my housing with people, friends of mine, I co-house.
Yeah, and so, and just like with food healers, what could be more efficient than, though I don't really like to use the term, but mass producing plant-based stew? Once you get the recipe right and the cooking procedures and everything, whether you're making 10 servings or 10,000 servings, it's just a matter of scaling it up. Quality does not need to suffer, right? And we don't need to add crap to the mix, preservatives or substandard, subpar ingredients. We can have gourmet stew, mass produced, mass distributed to different distribution points throughout Los Angeles, for example. And everyone gets to eat nutritious, delicious plant-based meals, 3 meals a day, as a basic human right, as a public good, right? Just like we have modern sewage as a public good, just like we have potable water as a public good, electricity as a public good. Why not food? Why not food? Well, it's never been done before. Duh. That's like saying, oh, we can't cool the planet because it's never been done before. Duh. Right. Right. It's time. It's time to establish both of these as planetary scale public goods.
So getting back to who's, by the way, I agree with everything you said, except for modern day sewage, and that should just be modern day plumbing. That's what I would relate to as a contractor. That being said, so who's against us? Besides everybody.
No,
I mean,
actually, I don't think anyone's against us, actually. There are some people who might be against us on philosophical grounds, but who the hell is going to mount a fight against us feeding every man, woman, and child in Los Angeles, right? You show me one guy who's really willing to put up a fight against us, and I'll show you a guy. Here, I got to stop recording for a second. All right, so you've asked a really interesting question, which is, why is it that more people aren't here in the conversation, given that this is the only game in town? You'd think in a town the size of 8 billion people, there'd be more people playing if this was the only game in town. The answer why there are not more people playing this game, part of the answer is, as you said, Bill, people don't like movies with sad endings or, with pain, with misery, with suffering, with whatever. And also, not everyone likes to take on a project with a high probability of failure, right? People don't like playing and losing football games, right? Or where there's a high probability of failure. But I would say even bigger than those two reasons is that most people are addicted to one thing or another, or in most cases, lots of things, right?
Meaning distractions.
Not just distractions, but actual addictions, right? For example, like making money, hoarding money. You mentioned a wealthy individual who was like, wait a second, Bill, so you're not making money at this, so why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? For a lot of people.
I'm going to take this real quick. You guys can carry on.
Yeah, no problem. We're all pause recording. Yeah, so I was talking about addiction. You had mentioned a conversation you had with a wealthy individual who was just like, it didn't compute that you would be doing this not to make money, but for some other reason, right? Yep. There are people who will only get off their butts if they can make money. And other than that, they're entertaining themselves, traveling to Hawaii, watching a movie, smoking a doobie, And so the entertainment or distraction, some of those are addictions, but making money is an addiction for a lot of people. And doing things for altruistic reasons just doesn't compute in their world, right? For them, that would be like playing backgammon, and instead of making strategic moves to try to win, you're just making random moves, and you don't care if you get hit.
Well,
right?
It's not necessarily true with this particular individual.
Nor was I suggesting it. I'm just talking generalizations, because we're trying to, we're teasing out, why is it that in a town of 8 billion people with only one game in town, why are so few people playing? Right. I don't get it either. You got me. I mean, there's no way I could play any other game. Right. Now, everyone on this call is privileged. We have the privilege of doing this. Not everyone is so privileged. People who have to work 2 jobs to feed their families, etc. So we're privileged. So that's part of the formula. But most privileged people squander their privilege on addiction, on hoarding, on, avoiding movies with sad endings or with high probability of failure. Right. This is a game with a high probability of failure. Let's face it.
Correct.
Okay.
But you still have people like Elon Musk that bet the ranch and won. And he's still sending, he still wants to colonize, Mars. Like, you can't make it up. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, how about just, saving our own little globe here? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the colonizing Mars thing is a bit of a publicity stunt, just like sending that Tesla into space was a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
I mean, have they really, beyond sketching out some cool concepts, are they really trying to raise money to take on such an ambitious project as colonizing Mars? Now, he can talk it up and talk it up and talk it up. And who knows, maybe one day NASA will say, hey, we've got an appetite for colonizing Mars. Well, he'd be the first company that they'd call. Say, hey,
Okay,
Elon.
I get it. So it's a bunch of just silly talk.
Well, it's good PR, because when NASA wants to contract for rockets or whatever, it helps position SpaceX as a leader, just like sending a Tesla into space helped position Tesla as the leader of electric vehicles.
Yeah, beautiful marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder if like 1 million of us can't, send a message to Amazon.com that we want to order a marine cloud brightening ships. We'll pay cash for those. And we have an order standing, whether Bezos would go buy those and provide those ships to us. By way of transactional thinking. He could buy the ships himself, but he won't do it unless he gets paid.
Well, here's the thing. We need to make this go mainstream. And what we were talking about earlier you're talking about, you've got inroads through your brother to the Young Turks, potentially Joe Rogan. That's how we get this thing elevated, because Joe Rogan has Elon Musk on as a guest from time to time. So Joe Rogan would be a huge coup. Doing an interview with Joe Rogan would probably be the single most powerful vector for getting this to start to go mainstream.
Yeah, you have an interesting bio, Jamin. You would be a wonderful guest. You would be so timely and such a wonderful guest. I really hope that you would do your bio, update your bio, your CV, and provide that to Rogan's people. I'll research how to reach them. I'm a friend of his on Instagram. I guess I don't know what that is, but I'm on Instagram connected, so I'll research it and get back to you. Tuesday, I'll get that done by. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thanks, Michael. And also, it sounds like Bill has some magical powers in that department. And for example, Young Turks could be a stepping stone to then get to Joe Rogan. Young Turks would be a score in its own right.
Yeah.
Right. It'd be a major score in its own right. Here, let me share another video with you, Bill, that a lot of the folks here have already seen. Everyone here has already seen, actually. Some of them perhaps more than once. But anyway, this is from the cannabis days. And this is a press conference that I co-organized with President Vicente Fox of Mexico, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
I am not.
Okay, Vicente Fox was president of Mexico from 2000 to 2006. And he's the most well-known Mexican president, of the last 50 years, right? And so a very big deal. So here we have this press conference that went for 88 minutes, an hour and a half. May 2013, when cannabis legalization was still in its infancy. So here goes.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Before I introduce our distinguished guests, I would like to begin with a quote from the late astrophysicist Carl Sagan. "The illegality of cannabis is outrageous, an impediment to full utilization of a plant which helps produce the serenity and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world. Carl Sagan. But by making cannabis illegal, we have instead turned it into a tool for violence, exploited by criminals and organized crime, spanning many countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a unique moment in history. The Berlin Wall of the prohibition of cannabis is weak, and it is crumbling as we speak. And just as happened in Berlin in 1989, the old guards who used to protect the wall of cannabis prohibition are laying down their weapons and walking away. What remains to be done is to safely and systematically dismantle the wall of prohibition and replace it with a system of laws, international agreements, regulations, and standards to ensure a prosperous and, above all else, safe cannabis industry. We are moving forward. The states of Washington and Colorado are leading the way. We have waited long enough for some sort of a green light from Washington, D.C., telling us that it is okay to proceed. In fact, the silence from our nation's capital has been deafening.
Now, that was part of the forcing of the hand of the Obama administration to finally give us the green light, saying, yes, we're going to let you proceed and we're not going to shut you down, right? The rest of the forcing of the hand follows when I pass the baton to President Vicente Fox. Here's my introduction of President Fox.
Yours?
Huh?
You're the MC of this?
Yeah.
Really? That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Here goes. So listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduced it. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you and measured, as my colleague John Davis will discuss. Next, it is my pleasure and profound honor to introduce to you a man who has dedicated his life to transforming his country and our world into a more peaceful, loving, and
Jamin, is that
prosperous
you?
planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you?
That's me.
Sorry. Sorry. I didn't. This is a while ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
just-
This is in 2013, about 9 years ago.
Holy crap. Okay, I get it. Good. Please continue.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the first freely elected president of Mexico, Señor Presidente.
Congratulations for that position. This state of Washington, has decided to lead a new path, a path to change the paradigm by legalizing medical and social use of cannabis. In Mexico, we welcome this initiative because the cost of the war, in the case of Mexico, is becoming unbearable. Too high for Mexico, Latin America, and the rest of the world. The impact in the economy, on income, on tourism investment, loss of talent, and above all, loss of hope, and 80,000 kids dead in the last 6 years. All this because our neighbor to the north represents such a gigantic consumer market. We must get out of this trap. And here is the opportunity. Now this group here is moving accordingly from words into plans, and from plans into action, and the action in the arena. To play the real game, this group must understand the need to make good, safe, and legal use of these new laws.
It's beautiful, man.
I just wanted to give you just a taste of that. That was part of a whole campaign to legalize cannabis as a first step to legalizing drugs, right? Because with drugs being illegal, what have we created? We created El Chapo.
A
We
monster.
created the Zetas, right? We
I
created
agree.
the Colombian cartels, the Mexican cartels, the Salvadoran gangs, the LA gangs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But that's good for government in some respect.
Well,
Because they get to get rid of their money, or they get to they get to I don't understand all this over my head, but I understand what you were doing there, and it was sorry I didn't recognize you. It was a while ago.
no. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But when I realized it, I was like, oh my God, there he is. Jamin. Awesome.
I, for one, am equally excited by the February 17th, 17th press conference. That's going to be quite memorable. And Jamin will be in his prime again in LA, California. Right in Santa Monica, I believe. Great.
Well, it'll either be in Santa Monica or it'll be in Pan Pacific Park, as we were discussing 15 hours ago.
Well, wherever it is, I hope everybody can. James had me a little worried today because his talk was very heartfelt, and he sounded like he was at his rope's end, even though what he had talked about when he did talk very sparingly was the most heartfelt message I could have heard, which was that if we don't just, because it was funny is when I first turned it on, I heard all this, it was like, oh my God, this is like a boxing match or something. What's going on? And it was that, Sarah and the
Molly and Andre.
Molly and Andre? I thought it was Sarah.
Well, there were several people in the room. One of them was Sarah.
Andre's a politician, the political manager.
Political consultant, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, when I was listening to them, I was like, man, this is like, is this what this is all about? This is like, this was an anomaly within this forum, obviously, as far as that type of conversation. But it happened, and when I turned it on, it's like, oh my God, this is like a boxing match. What am I up against? And then it calmed down, and then cool heads prevailed. But when I hear people like James, it's just like, I could either just tune in or tune out. I'm just like 50-50. But his dialogue was extremely calming and very thought-provoking and noteworthy. So I'm just so happy that he said what he said, and I hope I inspired him to stay the course and keep on, and it was very beautiful.
James is good people.
Yeah, I like that term. I use that term all the time too, Mr. Marcos. Yeah, good people. Good people there's nothing more needs to be said. somebody refers to you as good people, you could have a bad day and they can still look at you and they can just say, Bill or Marcos or Jamin or Michael, they're good people, and you will go out of your way to protect those people because maybe they're having a bad day. And not to say that, James having a bad day or whatever. He's just, we're all going through what we're going through. All we can do.
So I think Jamin needs to get going pretty soon, right, Jamin? You think, or
No, I got time. I
we
got
got a
time.
little
Thank
time?
you.
That's cool. All right.
I mean,
All right, so I want to say one more thing. Jamin, did you find the? Oh God, who am I talking about now? Do you find the other video that I wanted you to? You don't have to post it. You don't have to post it, but I want you to. I want to see. I want you to share that you know what I'm talking about. Richard Manning, the early Richard Manning post. It's about like 8 years old.
here, I'll pause recording so that we can zoom in on the right video.